Jack, good to see you. How have the last 4 or 5 days been for you? And can you talk us through the factors that you weighed up when making your decision to come here, and ultimately what made up your mind?
Yeah, no, it's been a crazy few days. Something that I've never actually, experienced before. I've been at Aston Villa my whole life, so everything that I've experienced these past few days has been different. Obviously, going into a new changing room, I've not done that. I've not done that in my career before, but I know I've enjoyed every single minute of it. Everyone at the club, from all the backroom staff to the players, everyone's made me feel so welcome. Made my family feel so welcome. So now I've enjoyed every single minute. And yeah, going back to the decision, it was obviously one of the toughest decisions I've ever had to make. But in the end, it come down to a few stuff, and it was something that I just felt like I couldn't turn down. The chance to play Champions League football, to challenge for trophies, and to play, next to people like Kevin De Bruyne, who I've looked up to for the last few years, and also to play for the best manager in the world was obviously a massive factor in it.
Jack, what's Pep said to you as well about the role that you will have? And also, how do you feel about taking on the number 10 shirt, particularly with the club being linked with another England player who currently wears number 10 as well?
Yeah, obviously I spoke to the manager, a fair bit. I'm not going to go into too much detail because that's between me and the manager himself. I think everyone's seen, in one of his press conferences that he said he thinks that I can play a number of positions. That is what he has said to me. And I feel like I could do that as well, especially in a team like Man City who have so much of the ball. And yeah, getting a number 10 shirt was obviously, a brilliant feeling for myself. I kept saying to my family and to my agent how much I would have loved to have had it here. It was, it's big shoes to fill, after Sergio had it for so many years, and we know what a successful player here he was. But I feel like I can wear that shirt and play well in it. And it just shows how much the club value me giving me that shirt, and I'll play in it with full confidence.
Thank you, Vinny. Next we go to John Murray.
Hello, Jack. Yeah, good, thanks. Just tell me, I imagine that you saw Lionel Messi's tears yesterday. When you leave a club after such a long time, and it is almost all that you've known, and yes, of course, there will be, you would hope there'll be great and exciting times to come, but how much of a wrench actually was it for you to leave Villa?
No, it was so tough. I think everyone knows that, obviously reported back for the pre-season as I was meant to. That's when the manager wanted me back, so obviously went back for a few days. It was obviously difficult because in the back of my head, I knew that I might be going. So I didn't really train. I'd done a few stuff on my own and stuff. But yeah, obviously, it was difficult. Everyone's seen the way Messi was yesterday or the day before at his final press conference, and that is the exact way I felt myself. Actually, before I left at the hotel, I spoke to the team and the staff and the players, and yeah, I teared up a little bit myself. But it was one of them, I felt like it was time for me to move on. Obviously, I've always said how much I wanted to play Champions League football, and I couldn't do that at Villa this year. And I have a football club here that has got so much potential. They've had I think they're the most successful English side in the last 10 years. And yeah, they showed so much faith in me, and I felt like it was the right time.
And I know that, as you say, the page turns, doesn't it? That's football. Things move on. But are you going to keep anything close to you? Do you do that just as a sort of personal link back to Villa?
What do you mean by keep close to me?
I don't know. Just, wear something, keep something, have something in the house?
Well, yeah, of course. I've been an Aston Villa fan. Since I was 4 years old. My whole family has. I had a season ticket since I was 4. Went to the club, when I was 6. So yeah, there'll always be links there. Especially with the big family that I have. Everyone is Villa fans. But at the end of the day, I'm a Man City player now, and I am going to concentrate on being so successful with Man City, and I've come here, to win silverware and like I said, playing the Champions League. So that's my only focus now.
Thank you, John. Next we'll go to James. James.
Jack, congratulations on the move. It's a 6-year deal. What are you hoping to achieve over the next 6 years?
A lot of stuff. I've come here, like I said, then to win trophies. That's what I want to do. I want to have as many winners' medals as possible. My career now, I've had a few runners-up ones, so that's what I want now. A lot of winners' medals, and I just want to be, as successful as I know I can be. I also have dreams that I want to do for the national team as well. Playing in a World Cup. I obviously had a taste of it this summer at the Euros, but I want to be, a regular starter for England. I believe I can be, and I want to just play as much as I can here, and be as successful as possible.
Has it sunk in that you're the most expensive English footballer of all time? And what does it mean to you that a club has spent that much money to get your services?
No, it probably hasn't sunk in yet, actually. It means so much to me that the club, were obviously willing to spend that much money on me. It just, if anything, it just fills me with confidence. I don't think there's any pressure on that price tag at all. It just shows, how much the club and, the manager value me. And that only just gives me confidence going forward.
James, Mike, Manchester.
Hi, Jack. Welcome to Manchester. You've touched on the Champions League there a little bit, and the Villa CEO did that Twitter message to fans saying how important it was that you got Champions League football. It is still the one trophy that evades Manchester City, so I assume you're here to win that, and you believe the club can win it.
Yeah, of course. There was the club, was so close to winning it last year. They were one goal away from winning it. That's exactly why I've come here. That's what the manager said to me, when we spoke. And I look around the change room, and there's honestly just so much talent and so much depth in the squad that I fully believe that we can win it this year. We have some of the best players in the Premier League, and like I said, the depth in every position is just crazy. So I think that's something that we'll be looking to win this year, along with every other trophy that's coming.
Thank you. Next question from Sam Lee.
Hi, Jack. Congratulations on the move. Just a simple one, really. What do you think you can bring to this team in terms of your attributes and your abilities?
No, that's one of the worst questions.
I'll put some thought into this one.
Really, you just asked me to bring myself up. No, obviously, I think I'm different to every player in this squad. I think there's, you have people, Raheem, who, wingers that like to run in behind. You have Riyad, who's just, an out-and-out dribbler. There's obviously Phil, who has, a bit of everything. I feel like I can bring a lot to the team. That's what the manager's brought me here for. He said that I can play in a number of positions, whether I'm playing as a winger, as as an 8 or a 10 or even a false 9. You know, I feel like I can bring a lot of stuff, because when I do watch City, there's so much, you know, there's so much attacking talent that can just do everything. You know, that they're changing positions constantly, which is obviously difficult for defenders. And you know, even the few days that I've been here, you know, the manager's only had 2 sessions with myself, and it's just crazy, you know, to see him work the way he does. And it's no surprise why he's been so successful in his whole career, because some of the tactics that he has are just out of this world, and I wouldn't even think of it. But when you start working with him, you know, like I said, you just see how successful he is. But yeah, going back to that, I obviously feel like I can bring a lot to the team. I don't really want to sit here, you know, and big myself up too much, but yeah, obviously the manager will choose what positions to play me in, and when I do play, I'll be giving it my all.
Sam, Paul, next, please.
Hi, Jack. Just going back to Champions League football, you mentioned it a bit earlier. What's it been like for you in the last couple of years, sort of sitting there and watching Champions League football and not being able to play in it? Because obviously you have, you know, you've got the talent to play at that level.
Yeah, no, it's been difficult, you know, them Tuesday, Wednesday nights, obviously sitting there watching the games, and you know, in myself, I believe that I can play in these games. You know, I don't think there's anything better than watching these type of games. I remember watching Man City versus PSG last year in the Standard, in the first half especially. It was outrageous, you know, the way they were passing and moving and stuff like that. So, you know, to be involved would be obviously a dream come true, and something that I'm desperate to do. I remember speaking to John Terry at Villa, and you know, he explained it to me and just says, when you're standing, you know, there on a Tuesday, Wednesday night, you know, and you hear the Champions League anthem playing, you know, he said there's nothing better. So, you know, I can't wait to be doing that, and hopefully, you know, we have a good run in the Champions League this season, and you know, can go one step further than last year.
And what is it specifically about Pep Guardiola and the teams that he's got that attracted you to kind of wanting to work under him? Was it man management, or was it just the style of play that he has, or is it just a bit of everything, basically?
No, a bit of both, really. What you've just said there, man management, especially. You know, you've seen what he's done with players here. You know, the likes of Raheem and Phil, especially. You know, I think, you know, a few years back, I think people, you know, were saying about Phil to go out unknown, but he kept Phil around, and you know, now he's transformed him into one of the best talents in the world. And then obviously everyone knows, you know, what he done with Raheem, who's, you know, one of the best wingers in the world as well now. So I feel like, you know, he can take my game to the next level. I'm going to be learning off him every single day, listening to him, and I generally cannot wait to work with him, because, you know, just as I said, I've been here now for 2 days, and honestly, the way he is in training it's unbelievable. I can't actually explain it. You know, the stuff that he has certain players doing in certain positions, it's just something that I'd never actually think of, and then you know, it just works. And you know, everyone here is so desperate to play under him. So yeah, Pep was obviously a massive factor in me coming here.
Hi, Jack. I know we've spoken a little bit about the fee, but does that fact that you're the first British £100 million player put pressure on you, or can you just forget about that and just play your own football?
No, I don't put no pressure on me whatsoever. I take that, you know, as a compliment. I actually like it. You know, I think it's a good tag to have. I think, you know, when you see a football club paying that sort of money, you know, for a player, it means, you know, they trust you and value highly, and see so much, you know, potential there to work with. So yeah, you know, I just see it as a good thing, and I just hope now that I can repay this whole football club by winning as many titles as possible and winning, you know, that trophy that we all want.
Hi, Jack. At Aston Villa, it's been kind of everything goes through you. If Aston Villa are going to create anything, it's you that has to do it. How will you find that, knowing that there's other players around you who can do the same, well, not the same things, but that can create as well? Because it's, I suppose, a little bit of a compliment that you had to do it at Aston Villa.
Yeah, I see what you mean, but I've obviously been playing for the national team now, you know, for a year, so I've kind of got used to it there, because there's obviously, like you've just said, you know, a lot of players that can create as well. You know, you got to remember, we also did have players at Villa who were extremely talented and that could create as well. But no, I can't wait, honestly, just to play with these players. You know, sometimes at Villa I'd get doubled up. And, you know, here it will probably be more difficult because, like you've just said, you know, there's so much talent in them attacking areas all over the pitch that, you know, it might be harder for defenders and teams to double up on me, which will give me more space, you know, more freedom to attack players 1v1. So yeah, no, I think, you know, obviously it comes with its perks as well. So now I'm looking forward to it, and I honestly cannot wait to get playing with all these players. And, you know, it can take a bit of time because you know, you need to find that chemistry with these players. But I feel like, you know, after a few weeks, I'll have that chemistry with all the attacking players, and I look forward to it.
Simon, I'll take two more questions, guys, because then we need to get over to the stadium. So bear with us. Take one from James.
Sorry, Si, did you say me? Yeah. So sorry about that. Jack, you mentioned England there. I know obviously City's the focus, but, you know, with yourself and Phil and Raheem, and obviously there's John and Kyle, and Pep's been quite clear that he would like to add Harry Kane to the mix. Do you feel England could potentially be huge beneficiaries here? You know, and Gareth could end up with a group of England players that are hitting the heights together on a weekly basis for the club.
Yeah, definitely. You know, I just touched on it there. You know, how much talent there is. Obviously, you know, I spoke to these guys at England about Man City, and, you know, they all had nothing but good words to say. But like I just said there, you know, it takes time to build that chemistry. And, you know, if you're playing with these players, if you're playing with them week in, week out, you know, you build that chemistry. And, you know, if there's obviously a fair few of us playing for the same clubs and then going off to the national team, you know, I think that's something that Gareth would probably like, because, you know, like I said, you have that chemistry. You know, we're all young as well. Obviously, Walks, he's got the body of a 20-year-old. You know, the way he's so strong and fit and fast and stuff. But then, you know, we're all obviously young, striving for success with our clubs and with the national team. So yeah, I think that's something that the England manager will obviously, you know, love, really, because, like I said, it gives you that chemistry.
James, final question we'll take from first.
Hi, Jack. You mentioned some reasons that made you come to Manchester. I wonder if the World Cup was one of them, as in shining for Man City in the big stages could convince Southgate even more of your talent for you to get even more important for him aiming the World Cup.
Yeah, it did actually. Listen, I could name you like 6 or 7 reasons why I ended up coming here. You know, there was quite a few in the end. You know, working under the manager here, playing with you know, world class players. obviously challenging for titles, playing in the Champions League. You know, there was a good few reasons, but yeah, also obviously the World Cup. You know, we have so much talent as well at the national team now. You know, people that didn't even go to the Euros. But I feel like, you know, if I'm performing for Man City, you know, week in, week out, and playing in the Champions League in Europe, and performing to the way I know I can, I feel like, you know, it could set me up to have obviously a brilliant future with the national team, and you know, try and start in these games at the World Cup and in the qualifiers and stuff. So yeah, that was obviously another important reason.
Thank you very much. Thanks for your attendance. Right.